Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Let's give credit where it's due, because this is a team, Sam Pittman obviously coming into this game, a lot of turmoil, a lot of controversy. We talked about it on this show this week about his future in this job. Listen, I know it's quote unquote only Arkansas Little Rock, but let's give credit where it's due, as the Arkansas Razorbacks put up 70 against, or excuse me, I think I said Arkansas Little Rock, Arkansas Pine-Bluff. I apologize. But credit where it's due. There's a lot of teams playing, a lot of FCS teams this weekend. I don't know how many teams are going to put up 70. So credit where it's due. Arkansas Razorbacks over Arkansas Pine-Bluff, 70-0. And when I think about this game, you know what I think about? And I've talked about it a little bit this offseason. But I was in Fayetteville in early December of last year. I went for the Duke Arkansas basketball game, court storm, Arkansas wins. But the story of that day and that week in Fayetteville wasn't actually Arkansas beating Duke. It was the return and the hire of Bobby Petrino. And I've said it all offseason. I don't think I understood how revered this man was in the state of Arkansas. And listen, we don't have to re-go over everything that happened back when he was the head coach. But to see the buzz and energy in that city, to see, at the basketball game, the chants of "We want Bobby, we want Bobby, we want Bobby," it just showed you the impact that he had, how much this fan base believed in this man. And at least for one night, and I know it's only Pine Bluff. I know. Don't yell at me. But that was a heck of a performance. I think the big story here, listen, Taylen Green, transfer from Boise State. And this was a guy, remember, we talked about him a few weeks ago on the show. This was a guy that, if you remember, was kind of, I don't want to say up and down, but he wasn't like this great, incredible pocket passer last year at Boise State, or really at any point in his Boise State career. 61% completion percentage 2 years ago, 57% completion percentage last year, 11 passing touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns, but a 57% completion percentage speaks for itself. So I bring it up because opening night, and I don't want to oversell it, but that was a heck of a performance for Taylen Green. 16 of 23 passing, 229 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 88 yards rushing, 15 yards per carry, and 2 rushing touchdowns as well. And so I know, FCS team, but listen, one thing I'll say, and I've said this for years, everybody wants to tear down the team that looks really good against FCS opponents in week 1 or week 0 or week 2 or whatever. That is not who I'm going to be. Because at the end of the day, every year, there's always a team or two that either loses to an FCS team or barely survives, like NC State on Thursday night. Now, NC State won by 17. You watch that game, it was close into the fourth quarter. And so I bring it up because I'm never going to be the guy that disparages the team that takes care of business against the FCS team, let alone puts up 70. Taylen Green, 4 total touchdowns. He's out of the game by halftime. Arkansas up 49-0 at halftime. And as a team, puts up just under 700 yards of total offense. Yes, I said 700 yards of total offense. And so when I look at this team, I'll tell you this. I think Arkansas is interesting. And I'm not going to oversell it. And I'm not going to, this team's a surprise. No, let's pump the brakes, okay? But at the same time, what did we talk about with this team all offseason? What we talked about was a team that was 4-8 last year, but was competitive last year against really good competition. This was a team that, of their 8 losses, and again, these are things that we discussed, 5 losses by a touchdown or less a season ago for Arkansas. This was a team that last year lost by 3 on a late field goal to LSU. Same LSU with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in Jaden Daniels won 10 games. This was a team that lost by 3 to Alabama. This was a team that lost by 7 to Ole Miss. And here's the crazy part. All 3 of those games were on the road. So I'm not saying that, Sam Pittman turned into Bill Belichick overnight, but you look at that schedule, 5 losses by a touchdown or less. You lost to 3 teams that were in the top 20 at the time that you played them, all on the road, all by less than a touchdown. I don't know if this team was as far off as maybe a lot of us made them out to be. Now, obviously, it's going to get much, much, much tougher starting next week at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, by the way, is a very interesting game in their own right because they actually play South Dakota State on Saturday. South Dakota State, by the way, we know about North Dakota State. We just talked about them. South Dakota State is a team that won the FCS championship last year. They're the best FCS team. I'm not putting it past South Dakota State to make it a game in the fourth quarter. As a matter of fact, I think it's kind of interesting. People talked about Colorado only being a 9.5-point favorite against North Dakota State. Oklahoma State, who's ranked in the top 20, is only a 9.5-point favorite on Saturday against South Dakota State. That has little to do with Arkansas, but we will see what Oklahoma State looks like. But for Sam Pittman, I think this has to give your team in that locker room some confidence going into what is in a tough early stretch, and then it's certainly a tough late stretch. Obviously, after the bye, you have LSU, you have Ole Miss, you have Texas, you have Missouri. So it certainly gets tougher after the bye. But we've talked about the pre-bye where they have at Oklahoma State in a few weeks. They open at Auburn in SEC play, A&M on a neutral, and then, of course, from there, Tennessee at home before the bye. So I'm not going to oversell it. I'm not going to pretend like this is the best team that has ever laced up some cleats in college football. But you need positives if you're Sam Pittman. You need positives if you're Arkansas. And a 70-0 win will do that. Credit to the Arkansas Razorbacks who get the win.